Welcome, welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get started here in just a minute, and I'll introduce you to your speaker. But before we do, I'm going to go over a few quick housekeeping items. Um, First up, this is an interactive session. You are on mute, but we want to hear from you. So please feel free to chat in your questions. You can go ahead and chat now, say hi. Let us know if you've got any questions right off the bat that you want Scott to cover today. Scott, if you want to go ahead to the next slide, let them know the most exciting part, which is Thread is excited and proud to be accredited to provide SHRM and HRCI credits for our webinars. And this webinar is no different. So for those of you who are joining us live today, you will be receiving your credit code at the end of the presentation. Please give me until the end of the day. I have to process the video and get it on YouTube and get the emails out, but you will have it by end of the day. If you don't receive it, please send me an email tomorrow and I will I'll make sure to get the codes to you. So,
Barb, you might have to share your slides. Mine are not cooperating.
all right, well, that's why we've got a backup. All right, let me pull the slides up on my screen. Thank you so much for letting me know, Scott. Um, all right, we've got this. I'll put it into slideshow mode now. Um, if you can't see my screen, chat and let me know. But hopefully you guys are able to see it. All right, so if you do have a sensitive question that you want to ask, but you don't want everyone to know about it, chat it to me directly and I will put it in the chat so my name's tied to it. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Mastley. Scott, just if I don't naturally know when to move your slide, just tell me next. I'm going to go on mute and off camera, but I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Barb. I appreciate it. We're excited to be on here talking about the end of the year. I know that's a busy time for everyone, just kind of thinking about how to wrap up the year, how to tie up loose ends, and how to get ready for the next year so you can start strong, be super effective and productive. But before we get into the work, what I like to talk about is you first. Are you certified in HR? If you're not, how about 2026 being the year you do it? All you got to do is put the date on the calendar, get to studying, and make it happen. It is very doable. I talk to people all the time who are so excited when they achieve this because it's such a big deal in an HR professional's career. And believe me, our clients do ask us, is this person certified? So it is important. It does matter. And I encourage you that if this is something you've been wanting to do, that you jump on it, make it happen. Don't delay. Just book the date, and then you're locked in. The other thing I'll say is if you're worried about your health, obviously nothing else really matters. So make sure that you're taking good care of yourself first, getting your health checkups, exercising, eating right, doing whatever you need to feel good about yourself. Someone told me yesterday that discipline is the key to self-love, and discipline is the thing that many of us lack when it comes to, living the lifestyle that we want to live in terms of our health. So just encourage you to pay attention to that and don't put it off. Put yourself first there. If you're aware that you have any good growth opportunities or areas where you'd like to improve or learn or experience in the next year, then make it happen. Put it on the calendar. That's it. I was looking at the average amount of time that Americans spend on their phone daily, and it's 5 or 6 hours a day average. And out of that time, it's about 3.5 hours on just junk, social media and gaming and watching YouTube videos. And we're all guilty of that sometimes. But if you replace some of that time with other things, like some stuff on the list above, you'll be a little more productive and proud of what you're achieving in the day to day. So the other thing I'll say is really make time to laugh with your friends. I had a CEO for a company when I started in HR, and he told every new employee, if you're not having fun, you need to make a plan to have fun. And I always remember that. So if you're not having fun and you realize it, make a plan to have fun. I have a group of guys that I meet for, beer and dinner every other Thursday. We always get together. Whoever can make it shows up. It's not formal. Whoever can't make it doesn't show up. No big deal. But we laugh the whole time. And laughing is really important. It can reduce your risk of dementia, of cardiac incidents of functional disability, all kinds of stuff. It's good for you in every way. So just want to start with that. That's my soapbox. Take care of yourself. It's really important. And then technology obviously is advancing at a very rapid pace. And we're going to talk a little bit about AI and on the next slide, but on this one, just want to encourage you to use what you've got. I know smaller businesses don't always have the budget to buy all the latest technology that's out there, but determine what's most important for you and make a case for it and see if you can take advantage of it. I've even gone into deals with other partner companies before where we all agreed to go in together to get access to certain technology, and that way we could get a group discount, and that enabled us to avoid it. So be creative. There are things that are easily available right now for Threads clients. We have digital posters for remote and hybrid employees. All they do is click a link, enter their zip code, and it shows them everything they need to see. So you're covered on the posters. There are tools now built into the best payroll platforms like iSolved, which Thread uses with our clients. We have a great predictive people analytics model. And I was thinking about the time that I used to spend analyzing turnover and determining what all the demographics of our workforce and all of the things that I used to do on spreadsheets that would just take me days and days to do. Now you can log into the software, click a few buttons, and it's there in seconds. I mean, almost everything you need as an HR person. It's unbelievable to me, as someone who's been around a long time, to see how great and quick and accurate and useful this information is. So, highly encourage you to take advantage of that. You can evaluate who's most likely to leave the company. You can look at who is due for an increase. All kinds of stats and analytics are in that predictive people analytics. It's really endless what you can do with it. And then applicant tracking systems. Sometimes people say, we only hire two, three people a month, so why would we need an applicant tracking system? Well, I just sent an offer for a position that I've been recruiting for with our HR manager and other folks we've been interviewing for a few months. We had over 400 applications for one position. So even though I'm only hiring for this one position right now, I don't know how I would keep up with that without having an applicant tracking system. I mean, with the system, they're all in there. I can qualify, disqualify, review, requalify. I can communicate with them. I can do a video interview. I can put notes in there. We can do assessments through there. We can do screening questions. All of it is built in there, and it's just so easy to use. So save yourself so much time by taking advantage of that kind of software. And we still do run across companies who are doing paper onboarding, new hire packets, and paper enrollments and things like that. So definitely encourage you to go paperless. The software is available everywhere now. We have it, we set up multiple onboarding templates for our clients so that they can have digital new hire packets, either by state or by position, however they want them. And then we run that through. So no more trying to figure out what someone's handwriting says or are you missing one piece? It's all in there and it's all tracked and stored in the system. Makes it much more efficient. And then learning management systems, there are states that have required training, and there's also training that you would like to do. I can tell you that most of our clients struggle with an effective onboarding program for new employees and also with performance management processes. You can make these better through your learning management system. You can do career mapping through here. We have different paths built in iSolved and our learning management system for each position we've got. So people only see what's relevant to them and what helps them in their day-to-day job. So take advantage of learning management systems. Sometimes they're industry-specific learning management systems that will help you, that have everything that's required in your industry. So whatever works, just use it. Y'all, you can make your life so much more enjoyable by taking advantage of this stuff. And then let's talk about AI a little bit. This could be an entire webinar by itself, no question about it. And I'm sure if any of you have been to HR conferences recently, you've probably sat through several AI sessions. But I just want to hit the highlights here on this slide, which is, how are we using it now? How are most of the people that I see, we work with hundreds of clients. How are the HR folks or the teams that we work with using it right now? So ChatGPT is a big one that a lot of people are using just to save time to say, give me a first draft of something. AI in its current state will still provide sometimes partial information. It doesn't always give you the what ifs or if then scenarios. It's not considering context or circumstance unless you build that into your prompt. So many of us are doing one sentence questions, two sentence prompts, whereas the people who really use this and take advantage of it could have a full page just in their question or their prompt. So they get exactly what they're looking for. But we're using it to save time. We use it, what's a sample job description? Give me a training outline. Give me a sample letter. Some companies are using chatbots to give their employees quick and easy access to what's my PTO balance? Can I get my pay stub or download my W-2 or what's a specific policy? So the best payroll software companies and HCM software companies are working on that, including iSolved, which is going to have a proactive interactive AI component, which will not only just answer your question about how much PTO do you have, but then say, would you like to go ahead and screen and submit it and get it approved and let you know how much you have left and takes it to the next level. So we have access right now. People are using it for efficiency in recruiting, like our applicant tracking systems will say, these are your top 5 candidates, and they're 80, 90% match based on the job description that you have posted compared with their resume. And you can go beyond that. I have heard some HR folks say, I'm worried about a bias that it's not intentional, but could be built into software. And you can work with AI to make sure you avoid that and say, let's build this system so it works the way we want and does not have any kind of bias and selects people the way we want to select people in a fair manner. We also work with a salary benchmarking company that uses AI to scrape live job postings from all your competitors or companies in any industry, size, geographic area. And it says this is what they're actually posting that they're going to pay for these jobs. And as we'll talk in a minute, there's so many pay transparency laws. Now that information is out there. So that's a quick, easy way to get real, accurate, live information. So very cool. A lot of us used to use this or started to use this for research, like how to find information. We used to spend a lot of time doing that, but now we're going to make a switch where it's going to, instead of just gathering information, to analyzing information, because the gathering phase, the time of that has reduced so much with AI, and it's just exponentially improving as we're sitting here. It's crazy how fast it's improving. But what are we going to do? So where it's going, look at any repetitive process driven work. Those things may be replaced. You see Amazon, Meta, Google, all these big companies doing layoffs because they're using AI to replace some of the things that they had people doing. So I would say, okay, right now we have employee access improved. And what that means is that your employees are going to have access to all the information that you can have access to. So they are going to be more knowledgeable when it comes to employment law and best practices, which means we should all be really on our toes and do the right thing to limit our liability and improve performance. The paid version of ChatGPT, for example, is going to give you more protection than the free version. If you are using the free version, which most of us do, then anything you put out there is now in the public domain. Meaning, if you say some confidential information on there about your company or a coworker or yourself, guess what? I can search that up just as easily as anybody else. So be careful about what you put on there. If you want to have any kind of protected information out there, then make sure you're using a paid version that contains what's searched for in your company. I had an attorney say to me yesterday, this is going to affect our billing model because what now used to take us hours and we would bill hours for might only take minutes, and people are going to get wise to that pretty soon. So it's going to affect a lot of industries and how we do things. And what does that mean for us? It means that we need to get ahead of it. Don't wait. Don't say, I don't understand this technology. I need someone to teach me. You don't have to be the AI guru. What you do need to do is be strategic about how you use AI to increase extra time in your day. And then how are you going to use that extra time now that you have it? So I would start thinking about those things now. How can you use it effectively to make your job easier, to be more effective, more productive? And then know that things will be moving to being more process driven. So, do you have your processes documented? Do you know exactly what they are? If you don't, I would start defining them and then know how you can improve those processes and where within those processes you can use AI, and then design your teams and workflow flows as you go forward based on that information, including even your services. So don't wait for someone to tell you how to do it. Go ahead and jump out there and leverage it, play with it, be comfortable with it, and grow with it because it's here. It's not going anywhere. Reports and notices, end of the year. This is the time when you start thinking about deadlines. So anyone who's required to do OSHA record keeping, that is coming up. If you are less than 100 employees or you're not in a high hazard industry, you're just required to post that summary of your injury log, and you post that February 1st through April 30th each year. You stick it on the wall. After April 30th, you can pull it off the wall, stick it in your file, and you're supposed to keep that for 5 years. So if OSHA ever shows up, you have that record for the last 5 years. Anything older than that, you can shred or chunk as long as it is not an exposure incident, like someone got blood on them or something like that. That kind of record you're supposed to keep for 30 years. But anything normal outside of that, 5 years is good. If you're 100 employees, high hazard industry, you need to submit electronically. That deadline is March 2nd. And the reason I mention this now is just so you can get ahead of it and say, if we have 10 locations, I need to do this for all 10 locations. It's usually not a one big thing. You got to do it for each location. So I would go ahead and start scheduling that time, gathering that information, get with your workers' comp provider, make sure you have what you need to take care of it. EEO1 date for 2026. That date window for submitting that information has not been released yet. I have not heard anything about the EEO1 data changing the requirements, but you never know. We'll see what happens and go from there. But in the meanwhile, if you're going to have 100 more employees in the last quarter of 2025, you'll probably be required to submit an EEO1 report next year. So if you're not collecting the voluntary EEO1 information like race and sex and job category, then you need to go ahead and start doing that. That means turn it on in your onboarding so that that form, that voluntary form is included in everyone's new hire experience. Or you collect it from existing employees as well. So you have all this within your system. And then if you're a thread client, we can just literally run reports for you that fill all the gaps here and make it pretty easy for you. But get ahead of that by gathering that information now. Remember, those forms are voluntary. If employees don't fill them out, managers are allowed to go in and fill them out based on observation, best guess scenarios. And then your ACA notices, is your broker going to do that? Is your payroll company going to do that? Usually depends on where you do your open enrollment, and that person will own that process typically. Do you have workplace posters? Physical posters are still required if you has a physical location where people report, even though digital posters are available as well. So you should have both if you have physical locations and remote employees. And then we will handle your W-2s. There will be some changes to the W-2s this year, and we'll talk about those in a minute when we talk about the big, beautiful bill updates. But also be aware of any state reporting requirements that you need to meet, just so you have them on your radar or put them on your calendar. And then we have got a lot of questions about the big, beautiful bill. So just want to remind you that we are going to put on a year-end payroll webinar. We had talked about combining the HR and payroll year-end, and we realized there's a lot to talk about in each. So we separated them to make sure we hit all of the most important topics for both. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this, but our payroll team is really going to cover what this means for you and what Thread is going to do to make sure that you are compliant and prepared for this. Basically, there are going to be some new sections to be completed in the W-2, and we'll provide that information. It's the main questions we get about this are what is it? Okay, you get the things that are relevant to our clients are there's a tax deduction for qualified overtime. And the qualified overtime means only the federal overtime. In other words, time worked over 40 hours in your defined work week. That does not include any state required overtime, like daily overtime, shift overtime, any local or state stuff is not included in that. So You just need to make sure that you estimate what is your qualified overtime. And any thread client who's with us, our payroll team will talk about how they're going to give you that information. It will be on the available to our clients, so you can have that and your employees can have that as well. And then there's a tip deduction as well that is, I think it's up to $25,000 in voluntary tips. So you just need to know to look at your earnings codes and see if you're tracking voluntary or involuntary tips. Involuntary would be, hey, you have a table of 10 or more, we automatically add a 20% gratuity at a restaurant. That's not a voluntary tip. So we do have some restaurant clients who said, what do we do here? You can change your language to encourage it, but not, make it automatic or require it if you want to include that in the voluntary tip. And our team will talk a lot more about this on Wednesday, November 12th, when they do their year-end payroll webinar. So make sure you join in for that and get all the answers you need on this big, beautiful bill. And then when you look at your pre-hire process, think about where you're sourcing your jobs, where you're posting your jobs. Again, the applicant tracking systems can help with that, help you post to all the free sites out there and add paid sites as well. But think about where you're getting results. Analyze that. What's working for you? What's not working? Do you have an employee referral payment? Thread pays $2,000 for an employee referral, and I think that's a great deal because we get a great employee who's referred by one of our current team members. You just saved me having to look at 400 resumes. So I appreciate that. It is definitely worth the money, and people appreciate the perk. Look at your career page and say, is it updated? Is your team page updated on your website? Do you have screening questions built in for each position? Is your job description up to date? When you're looking at your pre-hire process, communication will help you to stand out, help you rise above everybody else. Every person I've interviewed or talked to has complained about the lack of communication from companies when they apply. They said, I just apply, don't hear from anybody, or if I get anything, it's just an auto generic thing that I don't even know if any person ever even saw it. So make your communication intentional on how you respond to your applicants and how you follow up with them and how you keep them posted and how you give them the news. Don't leave them hanging out there. If you know you're not going to give them an offer, let them know. They will thank you so they can move on with their search. If you're doing drug and background screening, you want to make sure that you're doing that in a compliant way. Don't assume that whoever you're using knows all these laws and is doing it the right way. I've through my HR career, found companies in the past who were not doing it the right way. So you definitely want to comply with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and you want to do things the way they are supposed to be done, especially when it comes to pre-adverse and adverse action letters, what needs to be included in those. So just double check if you're using a third-party provider that they are doing all of those things the way they're supposed to, given the proper notice, getting the authorization. And when it comes to drug screens, you're going to have to look at the states that you're in to say, how can we use this information? Same thing with criminal backgrounds. Some states have rules about how far back you can go and what's relevant and what's not. So sometimes with our clients, we'll put together a matrix that makes it completely objective, and you can say this is eligible, ineligible, or up for review, depending on the nature of the conviction and how long ago it was compared to the requirements of that job. So it's a little tedious to put it together, but if you do that, it's worth your time. It makes all those decisions much easier in the future. And then pay attention to ban the box laws. Many states are passing laws now. I think 15 states already have a ban the box law where you're not allowed to ask about criminal arrests, convictions, anything like that on the application. So for anybody who's still using an application, just make sure that's okay in your state. If not, take those things off your application. You can always follow up when you do a background check. And then pay ranges. Are your pay ranges up to date? Do they move each year with inflation, with cost of living? Do you pay attention to that? If you did pay ranges 5 years ago, they probably need some work. So look at them and see if your employees are still within those pay ranges or beyond them. And do you need to adjust those? And if you do, go ahead and update those for all your positions in the payroll system, and then you'll be ready to go when you need to post jobs in the future. All right, pay transparency. So I love this graphic. that Barb did. Thank you, Barb. That is a lot of dough. $900,000 that Domino's had to pay out because they failed to post the job range that was required in some states where they were posting jobs. For people to file a claim against a company, they don't even have to be an interested applicant. They can just throw the resume in there and go, I applied. There you go. They didn't select me, but so what? They didn't put their job pay range in there, the compensation and benefits info that was required by this state. And right now, there are 14 states that require this. It's like California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Maryland, Minnesota, New Jersey. You keep going. So make sure you know that if you're in any of those states, remember that if you post a job on LinkedIn, anybody in any state can see it. So if it's going to states where you might be interviewing people or they might see it and they require that you post that pay range, you probably need to have that pay range in there. So pay attention to that so you don't get yourself in this kind of trouble. It's interesting that out of this $900,000 settlement, the employees and the claimants in this class action lawsuit each ended up with $95. So just think about where the rest of that money is going. It's a little crazy. So pay transparency, know what the states are, update your job descriptions and your pay ranges. I know I'm repeating that because it is important and a lot of people don't do that. Please take the time to do that. Look at your pay ranges. Are they good? If you need pay benchmarking, reach out to us at Thread or talk to your provider to make sure they can help you out with that so you know your pay ranges are lagging or leading or matching market rates for your position because you want to be competitive. Now, you don't have to pay more than everybody else, but if you're not paying as much or more, you need to have great benefits, great culture, other reasons why people would want to join your company. And then you're going to have to find the people who are not as motivated by money, who are looking for something more than that. So it makes it a little more challenging, but at least know where you're at. And then train your HR team and your recruiters to understand why we need to do this, where to get the information, how it's used, and when to use it. And then some of these states also have a record keeping requirement, such as how long you need to keep a record, that you did include that information in your job posting. So you need to pay attention to that as well. And forms and policies. This is always a fun HR thing to look at. This is something where we're going to be taking advantage of AI and the softwares that we use currently are getting better every day with this. But, Thread, we do a lot of handbooks and multi-state handbooks, and we do the automatic updates that says if a state law changes, here's the new proposed language. Do you like that? Yes, we can accept it. It updates the handbook automatically, and there you go. But make sure you look at your employee handbook. If that thing's two years or more old, then you definitely need to look at it. Look at certain policies that might need to be updated. Think about what happened during the year and say, is there language we could add that would help our managers manage? Sometimes we just ask managers right out of the gate, what's a great policy that needs to be added or revised or changed to help you manage better? To say, this is our policy. Let's just make it clearer for everybody. You may have heard about a new I-9 version. Basically, all that happened is they changed a couple words on there, and it's like changing non-citizen to alien and changing the word gender to sex on List B items. That's about it. So if you have this I-9 form that's dated 8/1/23, that form is still totally fine to use through, I think, 5/31/27. So no need to change that. You're good there. Don't worry about it. Look at your job descriptions, make sure those are updated. Some people say, do we even need job descriptions more anymore? Is that a outdated thing? I don't think so. I use them as a tool all the time. We can put information in there about the physical working environment that's relative to ADA claims, that's relative to workers' comp, it's relative to your performance management, to your offer letter, all kinds of scenarios where we can refer back to this job description and just creates an objective point by point guide. I'm not a big fan of the job description that lists, 100 duties of the job. At Thread, we like to do your top five and say if you're doing these top five well, then you're probably doing a pretty good job. And then we manage to specific metrics and performance outside of that to just keep that performance going. So job descriptions are important. Check out your pre-hire and new hire forms, your performance management forms. Do they need updating? Do they need improving? Are they working? If there's a snag or a bottleneck anywhere in the process, then fix it. Take an opportunity to fix this. Redefine the process, do a little training, share it with everybody, go from there. Almost every process we've got is fluid. These things change as we move along, just so we can continue to make them better. But look at your performance management toolkit. Please include training for your supervisors and managers on how to do this, not just to fill out a form, but the best practices of how to manage performance, how to share feedback, how to encourage and reward employees, but also how to talk to them in ways that they could correct or improve. Does not have to be a confrontational process at all if you teach people how to do it the right way, which helps them not to avoid it. So many people want to avoid conflict that they avoid performance management, and the employees are like, I have no idea how I'm doing. Once a year, they tell me that I need to change something, and that's about it. So create a better experience for your team and your employees by talking about it regularly, having a effective process, making it about success and supporting your employees, giving them the tools and resources they need and the knowledge that they need to do well in the job. Sometimes that's just as simple as making it clear what the expectations are and then agreeing on them and how that performance will be measured. If you have employee agreements, non-competes, restrictive covenants, be careful with those. I pulled up Patrick on our team. We call him Captain Compliance. He's the one that answers most of the Ask the Expert questions for SHRM Atlanta. So if any of y'all ever use Ask the Expert for SHRM Atlanta, we are the experts for that. We're really proud to partner with them and provide that service with them. But there are multiple states that have salary ranges that say if you're making this much money or less, you cannot have a non-compete. So Colorado, $127,000. Maine, $62,000. Oregon, $116,000. Washington, $123,000. And it just goes down the list. So be aware of those states, what the rules are regarding restrictive covenants and when you can or cannot use them. We don't see non-competes a whole lot anymore, except for high level of executives, partners, sales executives. Usually there's non-solicitation agreements and things like that. So, and then I would say make sure your benefit summary is updated as well, because when people are looking for jobs, they are looking for what is the pay, what are the benefits, what are the benefits cost. The better job you can do of giving them a clear, summarized promo, basically for what your benefit package is, the more likely you are to attract and retain great people. We've added to some of our information that we are Thread won the number one best place to work in Atlanta for small businesses. That's really important for people to know. And I've had some candidates say, that's why I reached out to you, because I saw that you're a great place to work. And we're really proud of that. We're also on the Inc. 5,000 list for some of the fastest growing companies. And that's important for people to know too. Are you growing? Where are you going? What's your plan? Are you happy where you are? No, we're ready to go. We're ready to create opportunities. That's what growth is about. And then last thing on this slide, we are also hosting a update handbook webinar for SHRM Atlanta. Christina Fiorenza on our team, who many of you have met, is going to be presenting that. It's going to be awesome. So if you want to really dig in to your handbook specifically, go to that webinar through Thread and SHRM Atlanta, and you're going to learn a lot about handbooks there. Okay. Hope y'all are still with me. I see some comments and things coming in the chat, and I'm going to save some time at the end to make sure we talk about those. Let's talk about some of your compliance gaps. Do you do self audits? Do you work with an HR team like we have here at Thread, or an attorney to help you out by identifying any compliance gaps you've got, and then to talk to you about the most practical ways to fill those gaps or minimize or eliminate that liability if possible. The biggest challenge is multi-state requirements. If you are in multiple states, you really need to know what the requirements are. And that's the biggest challenge that most HR people or people who wear the HR hat have, is how do I keep up with all these leave laws for all these states? Some of them are overlapping or contradicting or have more requirements than others. And then what do we do? Do we have a handbook with 10 state addendums, or do we put it all in one handbook, or do we do a different handbook? And we can have all of those conversations with you and talk about the best way to do that. But you need to know what is the minimum wage? In 2026, I see that 20 states are planning increases in 40 local jurisdictions. So cities and counties are going to have minimum wage requirements that are going to change, usually early in 2026, some of them mid-year. Um, there are 14 states that have a paid family medical leave requirement, and there are 19 states that have paid sick leave laws. So be aware of what those are. If you're not aware of what those are, work with us and we'll let you know what they are and we'll make sure you're okay and that your policies and processes and everything are compliant and that they work for you and don't get you any kind of trouble. Also, job posting requirements. Again, I'm repeating what I said a minute ago. I do that on purpose, and that is about the job posting, the pay transparency laws. Make sure you know what those are so you don't get yourself in trouble. We want to help you as much as we can to build a high culture, high performance company, and that includes limiting your liability as much as possible. We respect your risk tolerance. So some of you are high risk and some of you are low risk, and we'll meet you where you at and help you as much as we can. There are also training requirements in some states. California, New York, other states have training requirements relative to sexual harassment, harassment for supervisors and for employees, specific information that has to be covered along with amount of time that's spent in that training. So we'll help you determine what those are and make sure you comply with those and then can help you deliver that training and track it as well. The wage and hour compliance is a biggie. I always talk about wage and hour compliance because it's probably low hanging fruit, and a lot of companies get in trouble with this. The salary level for the white collar exemptions is still 35,568. That hasn't changed. But make sure you're getting help on how you classify people as exempt or non-exempt. If you're calling people contractors instead of employees, that can get you in trouble. How you pay people is very important. If you have someone who's an hourly non-exempt employee, you just got to make sure you're tracking all time worked, paying all time worked, including overtime, and that you're not deducting anything below minimum wage with them, and that you are paying at least minimum wage. If you do all of those things, you're going to be good 99% of the time with your hourly employees. But if you're calling someone salaried when they should be hourly, that can catch up to you sooner or later. So be as objective as you can about those classifications, and we can help you with those as well. And the overtime bonus calculation is just a reminder, if you are paying a bonus to our hourly employees that is earned 1 month but paid the next month, you need to make sure that you're doing a catch-up calculation on that overtime to add the amount of that bonus back into the amount that they earned during that pay period, which creates a new regular rate of pay, which means there's a new overtime rate of pay. And then you need to pay them the difference between the overtime you've already paid and what is now owed in this new overtime rate driven by the bonus. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, we'll be glad to talk to you about it and make sure that you are doing that to be in compliance with that as well. And then know what the final pay requirements are in different states. Um, South Carolina is 48 hours, New Hampshire is 72 hours, Utah 24, Connecticut and DC is the next day for terminations. California, Colorado, Missouri, Montana, they the same day, same as Nevada, same day as the term with just a few exceptions. So know what those are so you're prepared for it and you don't get caught being unprepared. And then this is again for you. I know I'm always enjoying my day much better when I'm organized. I don't enjoy organizing, and I'm not a very organized person by nature. But when I am organized, it makes me so much happier when I can find things and I know where they are, and I just love that. So I encourage you to set up your email inbox subfolders. If you have 5,000 emails in your inbox, get them out of there, clean them up, organize them however you need to, even if you got to go 20, 25 emails and then start next year. Start with a clean inbox if you can. Move toward paperless. You have vendor contracts that need to be renewed. A lot of times I'll talk to prospects who go, I do have a contract with so and so, and I don't even know when it ends. So it's a good idea just to say, these are the vendors I'm working with. what are the terms of this contract? When would I need to notify them if I want to leave? For example, if you want to switch your payroll to Thread and let our awesome team that has a super high customer satisfaction NPS score take care of you on that, then you just need to know what your notice period is and you can sign it and come over to us. That'd be great. Archive your old stuff, clear out your inbox, get rid of clutter. If you have a budget coming up, start planning for that and know what's coming up in your budget. And you can add in all the things that you forgot to put in the budget last year, which is what I do. I keep my list going and I go, I wish I had included this, because now I'm either over budget or I can't do it because it's not in the budget, right? Make sure you're aware of who is on leave. Sometimes the person who's managing the leaves for a company gets sick and goes out or has surgery or has a baby or and then no one else knows who the employees are who are on leave. So make sure you have that somewhere, that your backup is aware of it so those employees get the communication they need. And then if you're in an industry that requires licensing, that you're tracking that. And iSolved, the software that we use at Thread, you can track everybody's licensing with the due dates and renewal dates and set up reminders and everything. So take advantage of the software to do that and make your life a little bit easier. It's a great time at the end of the year to look at your payroll data as well to say, are our pay ranges up to date? Are they appropriate? Should we change any of them? Should we change the pay type, the job titles that we have in our system? Do we have any year-end deadlines or blackouts coming out? Are we switching up our 401k or anything like that where you may have a blackout period? Do you have PTO blackouts where you say no one's allowed to take PTO during this time at the end of the year? For a company like ours, the end of the year and the very beginning of the next year is one of our busiest times for our payroll support team and our ops team. So, we have to manage around that to make sure they do everything they need to do. So all of our clients get their W-2s on time, get their ACA reporting, get their year-end reports, all of that stuff that's vital to all of our clients. Make sure your employees have updated tax selections and they've got any questions they have answered about that. And they have issued their emergency contacts. There's things that you don't think are that important, like an emergency contact, because you don't use it very much. When you go to need it and it's not there, it's pretty stressful. So make sure those emergency contacts are there and that they are current and that the phone numbers are current as well. It's a good time to ask your employees just to review those and update them. Also, if you need to communicate to your team about PTO vacation balances, carryover, it's always a good reminder. Saying it once at the beginning of the year or even putting it in an email or a handbook is sometimes not enough. It's good to remind people this is how our PTO works, this is how our carryover works. We're coming up towards the end of the year. This is how you should use your time or not, or how much you can bank or carry over. Just go ahead and answer those questions before they're asked, and your employees will really appreciate it. And then start thinking about 2026 for your payroll calendar, what the holidays will be. I know some of us have floating holidays, and that's okay. Just list what you've got on there so people can plan ahead. It just makes it easy for your team to make plans ahead of time. And if they have the calendar and the holidays, sometimes it makes it easier for them to plan their PTO way ahead of schedule, which is beneficial for their managers and for the company to know ahead of time. And then if you have life insurance plans, retirement plans for your teams, make sure that they have updated their beneficiaries or even have beneficiaries in there. Again, it's a tough situation when someone passes away and then they don't have any beneficiaries listed in their life insurance. Now the family's got to get involved in court, probate, and it's just a way more complicated situation than it would be if they had a beneficiary and they could be paid out, directly by the company. So save yourself some time by doing that now. When it comes to training, this is something that a lot of companies don't do very well either. And I would encourage you to look at your new employee onboarding. What do employees do their first day, second day, first week? This is a great way for you to stand out as an employer and do better than almost everybody else because most companies really struggle with this. define what the employee is going to do, reach out to them before they come on their first day and say, hey, this is your plan for the first day, first week. This is what you should wear on day one. We're going to take you to lunch, so don't worry about that. This is when you should plan to be here and when you'll be done. And this is by the end of this week, we'll want you to learn this or be able to do that. Make sure they meet all the proper people on the team. They have an idea what their expectations are, where they can excel, and then how they can grow within the company and how they access all the stuff they need. So logins include things like these are acronyms that we use all the time that you need to know. And I always tell every new employee, when you come to Thread, don't carry anything around. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you're stewing and you're thinking about work, don't do that. There's no reason to ever do that here. You can come to me, anyone on our leadership team, your manager, ask any question you want, say what you need to say. Don't carry stuff around. I don't want any of our employees to feel that they work in an environment where they have to do that. So make that clear to new employees, especially, and then reinforce it by saying, hey, ask anything you want. What do you want to know? What's not clear? What can we do better? Get feedback on your onboarding program and keep improving it. There's required harassment and discrimination training in some states, but even if it's not required, it's a good idea. Those of us who have been in HR a long time say, I can't believe we still need to talk about this because we've done it 1,000 times in our career. But trust me, you do. It still happens all the time. So it is something that we need to talk about, reinforce that harassment, discrimination are not cool, not allowed, not what we expect, not a part of our culture, not part of our program. And then people need to know who to report to, what to say, how to react, all that stuff. And then another great way to stand out for you is if you have a growth mindset and you want your employees to grow, many applicants will say, what are the opportunities for growth within this position, within this company, this team, department? If you can lay it out for them and go, here they are, then they go, okay, there's a plan here. It's not being made up as we go along. So taking the time to do that can make a difference in your recruiting process and getting the best candidates. I always think it's a great idea to do some HR 101 for your supervisors, management skills training. We include that in our HR service. One of the things that makes us different compared to other HR service, providers is that we include the manager and supervisor training in our service, no extra fees for that. We'd love to do it. It makes such a difference for your team. And then take advantage of that software, that learning management system, so you can track these things and assign them properly. If you want to retain your best people, you can do stay surveys, you can do one-to-ones, you can just make sure you stay in touch with them and remember that people's goals change over time. If someone's been with you 3 years, 8 years, it's a good idea to revisit and say, where are we at? What are you thinking about? What has changed with you? What would you like to do differently? Is there something you'd like to experience or learn or grow? Know what their timeline is, and then you can make plans together. And then I would say make sure you're paying people what they're worth. Don't wait till they resign because somebody offered them 20% more and then go, oh, we'll match that offer. Well, the employees will always say, why don't you pay me that now? So if you can do that, identify your high pose, your high potential, your key players, make sure you're paying them what they're worth, and then have a succession plan as you grow. So, when this person gets bumped, who's the next in line to step in so we can keep being effective. And then, be creative with people. You can do things like say, what's important to you? I really want to get in shape this year. Okay. Instead of giving you a little extra money here, we'll pay for a personal trainer at the gym, or we'll pay for a dog sitter because I have a friend who has 4 dogs. They can never do anything because nobody ever watched 4 dogs. So doing that to him would be a big benefit, right? Give them extra PTO, let them be involved in projects they normally wouldn't be involved in. All these things can help you retain people. And we're getting close here to the question Q&A section. So just want to remind you to look at the data you've got throughout the year. What is your employee turnover like by position, by voluntary, involuntary? What are the top reasons that people are resigning or being asked to leave? And can you improve in those areas? Reducing turnover makes almost everything better and saves the company money. What are your incident rates when it comes to injuries or vehicle accidents if you have a fleet? How can you be proactive to improve that? Should you change the benefit offerings you have? Have you asked your employees, Is there anything we're missing or you'd like to have? Are there new benefits that we don't have? Thread launched Zayzoon this year with a bunch of our clients, and they're loving it. It's just an advanced wage thing that's built right into iSolved, and the employees can get a little advance on their paycheck, and it's all managed seamlessly through the system. It's no problem at all. So that's something new that people are really getting into. Look at your budget for the next year if you're responsible for that. Pay attention to wage compression, which is, you have people who've been with the company for a certain period of time, but now you're hiring people in at a higher rate than your current employees are at. And so that may have some input on what your pay ranges are for your current employees. And then just make sure that your plan is aligned with the leadership team and the company so that you're all rowing in the right direction and you're looking at the right indicators and metrics. I mean, we change our metrics every few months for some of our positions to make sure we're going in the right direction and we're chasing the things that are important to us. And what are your goals for next year? Take time to write them down. I'm not going to go through all of these things, but you see them. This is the stuff we've already talked about. And pick, one or two or three of those that are really important to you, write them down, and then break them down into what does it take to get there and get started. And, no one does this alone. Take advantage of your Thread HR team, payroll team. We're here to help, and we will love to be a part of your success. Okay. What questions do we have? Let's see. Pulling up the chat.
A lot of it was me just being a fool.
Oh, okay. Do we have any questions to talk about right here at the end?
Grace Ryan at the end said that I believe paying for the gym or the dog walker is taxable and must be reported on the W-2. What do you know about that, Scott?
Yeah, fringe benefits can be taxable as fringe benefits. So if you are doing those things, you just need to be aware of what the dollar amount is and talk to your employees about it and say, is that good for you? Some people go, yeah, I want that. That's great. And some people say no. So, you have to look at your employee population and see what would work for them.
All right. Anyone else? Any more questions? I'll give you back a few minutes of your time.
That's amazing.
All right. I know, Scott, I'm really proud of you for getting through this presentation and not going over. I feel like every year you've gone over. All right. Well, like I said before, you guys will get an email before the end of the day with your credit codes, copy of the recording, and any resources. We'll have a copy of the slides in there for you. I hope to see each one of you on next week's payroll webinar with Jesse and PJ. Thank you so much.